In this example, we're considering the market for diamonds, which is diamonds predominantly come from specific countries in sub-Saharan Africa, so that'll be relevant to our example here. And unlike some of the earlier examples we worked through, in this example, there's going to be multiple factors impacting the market for diamonds. So in our previous examples, we generally had one thing happening that either shifted our supply curve in or out or shifted our demand curve in or out. Here we're going to have two things happening. So either one curve might shift two different ways, or both our supply and our demand curve will shift. And then we'll have to assess the net impact of the two different factors. So in this example, we're told that after seeing the movie Blood Diamonds, that came out in the 1990s, for those of you who haven't seen it, many people in the US decided to boycott diamonds because it showed the brutality behind the diamond industry in some of these African countries. At the same time, diamond-rich countries in Africa passed new laws requiring mining companies to pay them higher royalties. So what is the net impact on the diamond market? In other words, what happens to P star, Q star when both of these things happen? So let's start with the first factor. So the boycott, because of the movie Blood Diamonds that came out. All right, how would a boycott affect the market for diamonds? Well, if consumers are not buying diamonds, then the demand curve for diamonds is going to shift in. So we'll have a new demand curve, we can call it D2. And eventually, once the market adjusts to this change, we'll end up at a new equilibrium where Q star is lower, we'll call it Q star 2, and P star is lower, we'll call it P star 2. So the price falls and the quantity falls. Okay, so now let's consider the second factor here, which is the new law that requires mining companies to pay higher royalties to the countries they are mining the diamonds in. So higher royalties paid by the diamond companies is going to translate into higher marginal costs of production. So as our marginal cost increased, so does the supply curve to reflect that new higher cost. So this will be S2, our new supply curve. And once the market adjusts to this change, we'll be at this new equilibrium at a lower quantity, Q star 2, and a higher price, P star 2. Right, so in this case, the price is going up and the quantity is going down. Now, it's important to consider each factor separately, because if you just put everything on one graph, it might be hard to really see what's going on. So let's see what happens when we put both changes on one graph. So starting at our original equilibrium, okay, let's put in the demand shift from the boycott. So demand decreases. And then let's put in the supply shift from the change in royalty payments. So supply decreases, it shifts left. And now let's look at the net impact of these two changes. So the new equilibrium after both changes, both the supply and the demand shift, occurs at the new equilibrium, at the new intersection rather, of the new supply curve and the new demand curve. So here's Q star 2, and P star 2 is about where the original one was, but it's really hard to tell. So the way I've drawn it here, it looks like maybe it's a smidge higher, but again, it's really hard to tell. Why is that the case? Well, if we look at the two scenarios broken down up here, we can see why it's hard to tell the net impact on P star. The boycott causes an eventual decrease in the price of diamonds, while the increase in royalty payments eventually causes a rise in the price of diamonds. So the net impact is really unclear, and we can't say without having any more information in terms of which of these effects dominates, whether the net impact is an increase, a decrease, or a net zero change. In contrast, the change in quantity is clear. It falls because of the boycott, and quantity in equilibrium falls because of the increased royalty payments. And here on our graph, that's pretty clear too. So in answering a question of, what is the net impact of these two changes, we would say that the quantity in equilibrium falls, but that the change in the equilibrium price is ambiguous or unclear. Okay, it would not be correct to say that price stayed the same because we don't really know that. It did move around. It did move due to both factors, but it's just unclear exactly where it ends up.